I've already explored the third generation Fujitsu Quaderno e-reader in my previous two videos on its PDF performance and its annotation and note-taking abilities. But there's one key feature of this device that seems to polarize people more than any other: the screen. So let's get one thing out of the way at the very start. The third generation Fujitsu Quaderno is dark. I've gone back and forth many times on just how much I feel this impacts the usability of the device. Sometimes I think the screen is actually impressive, and in many ways it is. I still think Kaleido 3 E-Ink is the best e-ink solution in the current market regarding color fidelity, and the colors this Fujitsu e-reader can display are actually really good, and one of the better implementations I've seen for Kaleido 3 E-Ink screens overall. Colors are vivid and certainly approaching newspaper or magazine quality in my opinion. Then again, there have been times where I've looked down at the dark, gray pool that is the device's screen when it's off and think, unless you have really excellent lighting, this device might just be too dark for many people to use comfortably. In fact, there have been times where I've wondered how much of the advertised benefits of e-ink regarding it providing a healthier reading experience for your eyes versus tablets and phones might actually be cancelled out by any extra eye strain this device might introduce if you're trying to read on it in anything but the best lighting conditions. As I've said in another video, the most true thing I can say is that the Fujitsu Quaderno Gen 3's screen looks better in better lighting. Here's some comparison footage to help you get an even better sense of this device's screen brightness and quality. Here the Fujitsu Quaderno Gen 3 is shown next to other e-readers that both do and do not have front lights. Generally, even when compared to devices without a front light, the Kaleido 3 E-Ink screen of the Fujitsu is noticeably darker. This is particularly true for the comparison when it involved black and white e-readers. Oddly, sometimes I think the Quaderno Gen 3 is arguably the more eye-catching display, and especially when going up against front light equipped color e-readers that have their front lights turned off. That's a bit of a curveball that I didn't really see coming, but if I had to guess why, I think this is likely due to the extra layer front light equipped e-readers have to distribute light evenly across the screen. This is where the Quaderno has a slight advantage because it has less physical layers between the screen and the image displayed. One negative about the screen is screen ghosting. This is when you turn the page on an e-ink device and ghostly after images of the text or images that were on the last page remain on the current page. And this phenomenon does happen quite a lot on the Quaderno Gen 3, a little too much, honestly. The good news is that Fujitsu does appear to have included one solution to get around this. You can trigger a page refresh at any time on the device by swiping up from the bottom of the page. Luckily, this usually does solve the issue for the most part. However, in an era of other color e-readers like the Kobo Libra Color, which accomplish very low screen ghosting even when turning pages rapidly, this isn't a great look for Fujitsu in terms of innovation. I think the question of how the Fujitsu Quaderno Gen 3 screen is to read on in ambient lighting is really important to most people considering this device, and hey, why wouldn't it be? Here you can see what the screen looks like in intermittent dappled sunlight. Now, I think this footage is actually particularly helpful because you can compare how areas of the device that are in sunlight compare to the areas which remain in shadow and see the full gamut of brightness scenarios at once. I was actually impressed at how well the screen comes through on camera here, and while a generally darker screen, it fares pretty well. Same goes for this scenario, where both the Kobo Libre Color with its front light off and the Fujitsu Quaderno Gen 3 are placed in the same last dregs of early afternoon sunlight. The Fujitsu Quaderno, again, holds up surprisingly well in my opinion. In case you don't know, I, along with most other product reviewers on YouTube, often use filming lights to illuminate the products we review. However, in this footage, you'll start by seeing the Fujitsu alongside other e-reader devices with my normal filming lights on, and then see how both of the devices look with the filming lights turned off and only illuminated by ambient room lighting. While being slightly darker in many of these comparisons, again, I'm surprised by how close the screen visibility between the Fujitsu and the other e-readers seems, both when illuminated by film light or just ambient light. However, for the units featuring front lights, this comparison test does show what a keen advantage they can be when trying to see the screen in lower light conditions. I think people are also curious about the text contrast and resolution on the Fujitsu. Feel free to pause this video at any time to have a closer look, but in this text comparison, I felt that the Fujitsu Quaderno Gen 3 certainly held up to the contrast levels and resolutions on the Remarkable 2, Kindle Scribe, and Kobo Ellipsa 2e. Only the darkness of the Fujitsu screen holds it back here in my opinion. So that sums up this device's simultaneously impressively vibrant, yet disappointingly dark screen. But before the end of this video, I wanted to add in a few extra good to know points about this device. The button. The button on the top of the Fujitsu Quaderno, at least on my unit, really hasn't been great to use. Whether trying to turn the device on or off, or trying to wake it from sleep mode or put it to sleep, this button, more often than not, just doesn't work very well. I find I always need to press it in a very exact way to get it to work. This was never a problem on the original Sony DPT RP1, even though that device had a nearly identical style of button. To me, this is one area of the device where I feel Fujitsu was being a bit cheap. Touch sensitivity. The touch sensitivity of my Gen 3 Fujitsu Quaderno has also not always been excellent, and that's kind of being kind, especially when it comes to using the small page jump slider bar at the top of the screen. For a device this expensive and in this era of e-reader technology, this really shouldn't be a problem on any of these devices anymore. Inconsistent user/software experience. While some parts of the Fujitsu companion app for the PC and Mac have worked decently for me, other aspects haven't been so smooth. For one, when you first set up the device, both the website you are directed to in order to download the Quaderno's companion app and the device startup guide are nearly entirely in Japanese, even if you've already selected the English language option in the setup menu. A little baffling, frankly. Additionally, I was never able to get the Gen 3 Quaderno to work with the companion app over Bluetooth. I was able to pair the device with my computer, but I was never able to get this to work. Not sure why that was, but definitely disappointing, as this was never and still is not a problem on my Sony DPT RP1 from 2017. This function still works just fine on that device. Probably my biggest pet peeve is this question. Why only in Japan, Fujitsu. The fact that Fujitsu only markets this product directly to customers in Japan is something that definitely works against this product. Even with its drawbacks, I think many more people would like to give the Quaderno Gen 3 a try, but are left a bit angry and scratching their head as to why Fujitsu, a giant multinational company that sells other products all over the world, seems to make it so difficult for people living outside of Japan to purchase this product. I mean, it's not like they're ashamed of it, it's on the third generation of the product. I don't really have any solid answers to this, but I'm reasonably confident that in the end, there's probably some economic reason. Having said that, with massive online retail outlets like Amazon.com, I don't see why Fujitsu couldn't open a virtual store on those services to sell at least a limited quantity of their Quaderno line to people in other countries. Anyway, right now there are only a few options that I'm aware of that people in other countries can explore to buy a Fujitsu Quaderno Gen 3. Number 1. There are sometimes sellers on eBay who have been directly selling the units. If you use this route, as with any eBay purchase, first I'd recommend going over the exact Quaderno generation being offered, the size, and whether the unit is brand new, with the seller to confirm these and any other important details before you purchase or bid on anything. It also never hurts to explore customer reviews of the eBay seller you may be considering. Number 2. While I don't have direct experience with this method at all, I have seen anecdotal evidence on sites like Reddit that the Yodobashi, I hope I'm saying that right, camera company in Japan, or even sellers on the Japanese version of Amazon might, and I stress the word might here, be sources where people could potentially find and purchase Fujitsu Quaderno units. If you want to do any further digging on those topics, I've included the link here on screen to the Reddit community of Fujitsu Quaderno enthusiasts and users. Number 3. I suppose it is worth mentioning that certain e-reader reviewers are offering the device for sale to customers. That's all I'm going to say about that, so if you're interested in that option, you'll have to do your own research. Number 4. Finally, if you are considering purchasing this device, you may want to check out fellow e-ink reviewer Voya's take on his process for purchasing the second generation Fujitsu Quaderno. The name of the video is on screen now, and he goes into quite a bit of detail on his experience with this, and that experience is certainly interesting to keep in mind. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, then why not give it a digital like, and subscribe to encourage more Inktelligent videos like this one.